Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. CACHEFLY.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the premier radio networks, including 170 stations, XM 166 as well, on Sunday, September 11th, 2011, day we will remember forever. This is episode 804. Enjoy. The Tech Guy Netcast is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving your time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And it's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, and all. I say that every day, so maybe it's a list you don't need to hear. When I first started doing this show 7 years ago, one of the things they told me was, Leo, there are plenty of computer shows on the air that just cover Windows. We want to do more. We think cell phones are going to be big. Boy, that was prophetic. We think home theater is going to be big. Boy, that was prophetic in 2004. We want to make sure we cover all of the technology. And I said, I'm game. I'm all for that. Because really, the computer revolution that we talk about is happening in more than just, your desktop computer or your laptop computer, obviously. I'm saying a truism, aren't I? I mean, your cell phone nowadays, this cell phone here that you hold in your hands, that thing is as powerful as a computer, more powerful than the computers that were big in 2004. This cell phone I have here is dual gigahertz processors. It's got how much RAM? It's a gigabyte of RAM. I mean, this thing's pretty powerful, and they're only getting more so. In fact, the next generation cell phones are about to emerge. Any minute now, they're coming. Stand back. Apple's iPhone 5 will be out in a couple of weeks. We're pretty sure of that. I think there's no doubt that will be coming out. We don't know exactly what it'll be, but I think you can make some pretty good guesses. For instance, the processor will probably be the same one they use in the iPad. That's a dual processor, dual core A5 processor, probably running at a gigahertz. I think it'll have the same display. Might be, although rumors are it might be a little bigger. Or there might be two phones, one with a smaller one, like an iPhone Nano, and one with the bigger display. I don't know. Is there a market for an iPhone Nano? Remember for a while, phones were getting smaller and smaller. Like if you were really with it, you had a phone. I remember I worked with a guy named David Borman. He now works for CNN, but he was at MSNBC when we launched a show called The Site. And he's a big guy. Don Imus called him Old Moose Butt Borman because he's a big guy. I'm a big guy. I'm not that, no knock on him. But he was cool. He was hip. He was with it. And this was 1994. And he had the latest, greatest cell phone, a little thing from Sony that was so small, it was about as big as a pack of matches. And you'd flip the microphone down, and he'd hold it to his giant head. And it just looks stupid. It just looks silly to have that little thing. And so that was I think the smallest cell phone I ever saw. You can make them that small, but once we get to smartphones, you want enough room for a keyboard, or maybe an on-screen keyboard. You want enough room for lots of icons, and now we realize bigger is better. And so the next generations of Android phones, the Samsung Galaxy 2S, 4.3, which is kind of the biggest normal size we've been seeing, now 4.5 inch. I think Sprint's going to have the 4.5 inch Galaxy 2S. And, of course, Dell tried something they called the Streak. That looked like you were holding one of those giant Hershey bars in your hand. It was thin and flat, but it was 5 inches. And it just looked, it wasn't quite a tablet. The smallest tablets we've seen are 7 inches. But it was certainly a lot bigger than a phone. And it looked there's something, there's an aesthetic. Maybe it's just what you're used to. Maybe someday we'll all be holding giant Hershey bars to our head. In any event, is it the Galaxy S2? I'm sorry, P-Practic. I'm not sure. You know, the new Galaxy S. Is it the 2S or the S2? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about. So I do think that bigger is better in some sense. You know, it has to be big enough for you to see the screen and be able to use the keyboard and all that stuff, but it has to be small enough you could fit it in your pocket or purse. That's the key. New Android phones coming. Of course, that's not saying anything special because there's always a new Android phone coming. New iPhone coming. That's a big deal. We haven't seen one since June of last year. We've been waiting. Long time. What else is coming along? The Ultrabook from Intel is coming out soon. Intel and Windows manufacturers noticed that the MacBook Air was doing pretty darn good. Yeah, like kind of a big hit. And they said, we have to do the Ultrabook. So Intel created a $300 million Ultrabook investment fund to create essentially Windows-based MacBook Airs. Really thin, really light, but just as powerful. Asus will ship the first Ultrabook this month. Toshiba has one out in November. Intel has certain specs, they say, that will be required for the Ultrabook. They're not quite tablets. They're not quite laptops. I have to say I love my MacBook Air. The Asus UX21 is kind of gorgeous. It's shiny aluminum. Looks kind of like a Sub-Zero refrigerator. They will have new Intel processors that will be very fast. Unfortunately, you know, the key is if Intel wants to keep these well below $1,000. The MacBook Air starts at $1,000. The UX21 will probably be higher end, cost more than $1,000. Will you buy? Do you want a laptop computer that's as powerful as a laptop running Windows 7, but as light or almost as light as a tablet? I think so, especially if you can keep them under $1,000. And, of course, next week we're waiting to hear the other shoe's going to drop. Windows 8, the next version of Microsoft Windows. Yes, I know. We're just getting used to Windows 7. Windows 8, not sure when it'll be out, but the bets are about 2012, sometime next year. And we will learn all next week during the Build conference, Microsoft's big conference. They've combined, they used to do a conference for hardware folks, for software folks, for web. They've combined all of them. WinHEC, PDC, and Mix into one big conference they call the Build Conference. The man running the team for Windows 8, Steven Sinofsky, will be speaking and telling us all. Steven's very unusual in the tech business because when Steven says something's going to happen, it happens. He's been very good. He was on the Microsoft Office team and has really earned the respect of tech journalists because he doesn't make stuff up. He calls it like he sees it. So we'll be very interested to see what he says next week. So the fall is always an exciting time. That's when new technologies come out in the fall. That's when they get stuff ready for not only the back-to-school season, but the holiday buying season too. So we shall be seeing some very interesting things, I suspect, in the next few weeks. Now, if you'd like to talk about it, I'd like to talk about it with you. I've got lines open right now. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. 888-827-5536. That's toll free from anywhere in the U.S. If you're outside the U.S., and I know we have listeners all over the world thanks to the internet. I got an email the other day. I was joking around yesterday. I said the internets. You know, it's a joke. Sometimes people say the intertubes or the interwebs. It's I know it's kind of a stupid joke, but it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of saying the internet. And somebody said, you sound really stupid when you say internets. It's not plural. There's only one. Actually, you know what? There isn't only one. There are at least two internets. There's Internet 1 and Internet 2. But I will not be pedantic. We'll just call it the Internet. Thanks to the Internet, we have people listening all over the world, and if you're one of them, you can still reach us at 1+1-888-827-5536. But you'll probably want to use something like Skype Out or some sort of voice-over Internet technology to reach us because the toll-free number only works in the U.S. It is toll-free, though, so, Skype when you're calling a toll-free number, that works great. Of course, I will absolutely acknowledge this is what we call now Patriot Day, September 11th, 10 years after the great tragedy that beset this country. I know that everybody in the world is covering it and covering it better than I can. So let's just acknowledge it. Acknowledge the tragedy, the loss, and wish everybody well. But next, let's take your calls. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
What their lives will be like without the internet. Yeah.
See? It is the internet's. Kyle Benham on the
Electricity.
music. Who's that, Kyle? That's great. I love that. Kyle puts together a list of all the songs he plays on the show. He picks all our bumper music, and it's always different. I think he pulls a lot of it from the internets. And you can he'll post a list on Google Plus. He's Kyle Benham, Benham on Google Plus, so you can follow him there if you're on Google Plus. He posts a list after the show every day, and it's actually a Spotify playlist, which is so cool. Because on Spotify, you know, if you're by Spotify, I'm in love with Spotify. It's kind of one of those streaming music services like Rhapsody, or it's not like Pandora. It's more like Rhapsody or Mog or RDO, where you have 8 million songs to choose from, and as long as you pay your monthly $10 fee, you can listen to any of those songs. And it's got a whole bunch of social things and so forth. So he makes a playlist. You can click the link on his playlist in Google Plus. If you have a Spotify account, and right now I think it's free. I pay for it because I love it. But you could get a free account. You click that list, it'll open the playlist in your Spotify client on your phone or your desktop, and then you can listen to all those songs as if you own them, which is very cool. Really do enjoy that. So thank you for doing that, Kyle, because he always plays interesting stuff. So I don't have to ask, really. I'll find out when I look at the list. Then by the way, I repost that usually if I see it on my Google Plus, and then we also put it in the show notes. TechGuyLabs.com. TechGuyLabs.com is the website. That's where you'll find the phone number, the link to the chat room. Always fun in the chat room. 790 people in that great chat room chatting along, talking at me. Everybody's talking at me. I can't hear a word they're saying because they're in the chat room. I use their Spotify. N5GM is saying in our chat room that the Roku client for Spotify is not that great. He uses RDO. I use Mog on the Roku. You're right. Very nice. It's Patriot Day, and we were also mentioning the fact that there's a lot of coverage of 9/11 as we are in its the 10th anniversary of 9/11, and probably none better than what archive.org is doing. And since this is a tech story, I think I'll bring this one up. If you do you know about archive.org? What an interesting idea. Brewster Kahle thought this up. He was an early entrepreneur, sold his company Waze to America Online for lots of money, and decided to do some interesting things with that money. Instead of, as many entrepreneurs do, trying again and again to make more money, he said, I'm going to do something for the public benefit. And he created archive.org, or the Internet Archive. He calls himself a digital librarian. It's his goal, a very worthy goal, to save the Internet for future generations. So they archive terabytes a day of Internet websites and content. They store it, if you listen to the show, you know, distributed backup, offsite backup, very important. They store it all over the world, including, I think this is cool, the Library of Alexandria in Egypt. And so there's copies of the Internet being stored all over the world on massive storage devices, massive hard drives. And, of course, because they've been doing this since before 9/11, before 2001, they have an amazing archive of 9/11 stuff, including this Understanding 9/11 television news archive, which is just amazing. You can go day by day, look at the television news, see the coverage. It's co-sponsored by NYU, their Moving Image Archiving and Presentation Program at the Tisch School for the Arts. 600 archived 9/11 related websites. Really, a community video collection. So this is certainly one of the best places to go if you want to kind of relive 9/11. And I think there's a whole generation of kids, my kids' age, who just, dimly remember it, who might be benefit a lot. What are all the grown-ups talking about? Well, this is what. And really, a really good job by the Internet Archive of saving all that stuff. Phone number, 888-827-5536. That's 8888. Ask Leo. Let's go to the phones. Mark, our first caller of the day in Tustin, California. Hi, Mark.
Hey, I had two questions. One about printing from iPad, and the other one about, is there a way to lock a webcam on a laptop for kids so I don't have to worry about the webcam showing stuff?
That webcam question is really a good one, because remember, there was a school district. Where were they? In the east, back east, New Jersey?
Yeah, I don't remember. I remember the thing. They had to get, the girl who sent it out had to, not do it anymore, and all the boys had to wipe it from their phones and sign contracts that said they'd never do it again.
Well, that was one, but then there was a school district that had kind of a low jack system installed on all the laptops. They gave kids laptops, the high school kids laptops, and they were caught spying on the kids. And the reason they were caught is they confronted a kid saying, "We saw you taking drugs in your bedroom." Turns out they were Tic Tacs, breath mints. But the kid's parents said, "Wait, whoa, hold on there. How did you know he was taking Tic Tacs in his bedroom?" "Oh, well, we have these webcams on the computer we gave him." So this was about a year ago. The school, of course, was fined and promised never to do it again. But the problem is there is no software. We investigated this. Steve Gibson, our security guy, investigated this. Is there a way to disable or turn off or lock a webcam on a computer? And you can do it in software, but the problem is there's nothing that can't be overridden by malicious software on that computer.
Right. But what if it's, I just don't want the kids to have access? In other words, I'll use it for something like talking to my mom, but I don't want the kids to have access to the webcam. I'm not worried about outside people. I'm worried about the people in front of the laptop.
So you want to be able to turn it on and off based on your desire. Yeah, I think the software that is used to lock, I'm not a big fan of these. How old are the kids?
Well, they're getting into the teenagers, and I just...
Yeah, nothing that I've seen thwarts a teenager. Because why? Because they share this information with their other kids, right? And they say, well, hey, here's how you get around Cyber Patrol. Cyber Patrol is one of a number of, I think, pretty good programs that will do this. Cyber Patrol will turn off the webcam. It's $30. You're still relying on the kids' goodwill. Because if the kids really want to get around this stuff, once they get to the age about 13 or 14, the other kids will share this with them.
Right. But usually if it's at least locked up,
it's a signal to them saying, don't do it. And I think, I think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a bad idea at all. This has a web filter on it. Wouldn't rely on it because these web filters are notorious for over-aggressiveness and under-aggressiveness. They simultaneously block good sites and inadvertently don't block bad sites, so it's not 100%. But it does allow you to control how they use the computer, and that's what you want. You can turn off games, you can turn off programs, you can say, here's what you can do online, and so forth and so on.
At like 10 o'clock, could we just say no more internet?
Yeah, actually, I do that, and I recommend that with a router. And I did that for my kids. Actually, that's really, to me, that was the thing I needed to do, is that the kids would stay up till 3 in the morning chatting, because they're kids. And they have they were having a great time chatting. So exactly what we would do, we would turn off the internet at 10 p.m. You can do that with almost all routers will have something called access control that you could turn that off. There's another great site to know about, opendns.com, which has some really excellent controls and filtering. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Extreme. We were talking about a very interesting question. Mark and Tustin want to know how to block the webcam. He doesn't want his kids to use chat roulette, for instance. And I frankly wouldn't want my kids to use chat roulette either. I do really strongly feel, as a parent of teenagers, and having gone through this myself, that in general, the best thing to do is to really communicate with your kids, talk to your kids about, maybe have a appropriate internet use policy as an office would, or that kind of thing. And really talk to your kids, because no matter what tools you use, and I used opendns.com to block sites, and I still do, actually. Henry's 17, and that's really and that you can do fairly effectively. if the kids are sophisticated, they can get around anything. Or better yet, use their smartphone or go to a friend's house. So that's why no matter what you do, that you cannot ignore the importance of having a conversation with them about what they might be seeing on the internet, what's appropriate on the internet. You know, open up the lines of conversation, especially with younger kids, saying, if you see anything that makes you uncomfortable, please, let's talk about it. Don't hide it. All of that is really important. And so these tools are tools, but they're not, they're just tools. They're not the solution for protecting your kids 100%. Now, talking about just merely disabling webcams, the chat room did point out, and I think you're right, this is a good idea, that if all you want to do is kind of control the webcam use, you can do what they would do in a business. You can disable the webcam in the device manager, just disable it. It turns off the hardware. And a really good way to do this would be to have different logins for the kids and the parents. Make sure the kids log in doesn't give them administrative rights. That's a very good idea in general, because that if they're limited users, there's a lot of trouble they cannot get into, including installing malware on your system. So make them limited users. They won't be able to re-enable that. And then you can even have hardware profiles when you boot up. It's a little more complicated, but you can Google hardware profiles that say when Dad logs in, the hardware profile enables the webcam. When Junior logs in, the hardware profile disables the webcam. And that would work. But that just is for the webcam alone. But that's what Mark was asking about. Ron in Huntington Beach, California. Oh, he also said, can you print from an iPhone or an iPad? And this is something that Apple thinks you generally don't want to do. The newer iPad software will allow you to print. Oddly enough, they only support HP printers in the iPad. But you can add software that will let you print to other printers. All printer manufacturers now are making software that will enable printing over a network from the iPad. Now, he's wondering about printing from a hotel. I presume printing from a hotel to a printer at home, right? Or are you, if you're at the hotel and you want to print to the hotel's printer, I would that's a little more. I would email it to the hotel. That'd be the easiest thing, and have them print it, or fax it to them and have them print it. There are cloud print solutions. Google has a cloud print solution. Apple has a cloud print solution. The idea being that you print from a device to the internet, and then at the other end of the internet is a printer at home, for instance, or your office that can print. There are programs that will do that on the iPad as well. But if you're traveling, you got an iPad and you're at a hotel and you got your document that you want to print out, the best thing to do is to email it. Ask the hotel, where can I email this? What's the business center email so I can have you print it out? And that would probably be the best way to do that. Ron in Huntington Beach, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Ron.
Well, hot dog, Leo took my call.
Hot diggity dog.
Hot diggity dog. Listen, I am not a long-time listener, but I am a loyal listener.
I like that, I guess.
I found you about 3 years ago, and I haven't missed you via podcast yet, I don't think.
Well, I think 3 years counts as a long time.
Oh, good.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't go back to tech days or something like that.
I like that. Yeah, you hear a lot of times people will come on and say, hey, love Tech TV, watched you on the Screensavers. That was a long time ago, 1998 through 2004. So that's 7 years ago now. And I like it. I love it that people remember that. But part of me really wants people to like me for what I do now. Like me now. Not for what I did then.
You get it a lot, but I want to thank you for making me sound so smart before my friends and my.
Yes, and I want to point out, you do not have to say Leo says at the beginning of that.
No, I actually.
You can just say, I happen to know.
I happen to know a real good backup solution.
Exactly. Don't say, yeah, I give you permission not to give me credit.
But I tell you, another thing that I don't hear very often is I like the way you handle your callers. Not everybody knows how to describe the problems to you, and I like the way you're able to pull the information out of them. That's really neat. And also, some of them, are not really that good at callers, and you very politely and discreetly hang up on them.
Shh.
Oh, well.
Nobody knows what I'm doing. You're giving away my secrets. Actually, I enjoy part of the fun of doing this show is deciphering This is, if you're going to enjoy tech support, this is what you have to enjoy, deciphering what they're saying from what you need to know. It's kind of a challenge sometimes. So,
yeah, my computer crashed. What do I do? Well,
right, I don't know.
More than that. Now I'm into my question, really. I'm the CFO and the IT department for my daughter's dance studio. It's called Huntington Academy of Dance.
Awesome.
HuntingtonAcademyofDance.com is the website.
I bet you do that pro bono.
Almost.
Very close to.
What we're looking for is a dance a ticketing program that'll help us distribute and keep track of when we have programs or recitals, to keep track of who orders what seat. Do you have any referrals on that?
You know, I don't know, but I'm sure somebody listening or somebody in the chat room will. So it's a dance studio. You have, kids do performances, and you'd like some way for. Do you want it on the website to be able to take orders on the website?
Well, it depends on the cost of it, but yeah, we'd like to do that. Yeah, that'd be good.
So you'd like software that lets you take orders on the website, print tickets, reserve seats, list that stuff out, all of that stuff.
Right now, we all do it by hand. They call in. We got somebody with a big old picture of the seating chart, and they color in what seats are taken.
Yeah,
that's the hard way.
I don't know off the top of my head, but let me ask the chat room if they have any good ideas. I'm sure there's stuff that will do this. This is. Yeah,
we're of course on a limited budget. We don't have thousands of dollars to spend on this, but
there's things like Evite for people who want to throw parties. Here's one that Web8583 suggested in the chat room. It's called Booking Bug. BookingBug.com, the complete booking and reservation system that lets you start taking bookings and payments today. It looks like it gives seating charts or this is interesting. You could use it as if you're a massage therapist or a hairdressing salon. This might do what you want it to do. I think certainly it's a start for this kind of thing.
We get thousands of parents and grandparents attending, so it's a
thousands. Wow.
Yeah.
Here's another one. Boy, the chat room's good. I don't know if they're Googling this or they know. TicketOS.com. TicketOS.com. Delivering complete control of corporate ticket spending. Well, I don't know about that. It's a ticket management tool. I don't know if this is exactly. This doesn't sound like what you want. This sounds like a corporate management. Let's see. I'm looking at more. We're getting more from the chat room. Brushfire. So this is unedited. Understand? I'm just taking them. Brushfiresoftware.com. That's from Web 6972. Boy, the name doesn't tell you anything. Event ticketing and registration in one easy-to-use online tool. Online event management for every type of event. This sounds pretty good. Tell you what, Ron, we'll put links to all three of these in the website, techguylabs.com.
So they will never find, and we can act like we come from out of this world, leave the real one far behind, and we can dance.
Yes, those are the men with hats. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Now I really do need to download that list of Kyle's songs for the show today. We'll put that on the show notes, techguylabs.com. We'll also put a link of a number of different websites that offer this kind of ticket management for companies. What you want is one that does it for nonprofits. It does it less expensive than others. That would be perfect. That would be perfect for his Huntington Dance Academy. Tom in Redlands, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, morning, Leo. Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for calling.
I'm hoping you can make my life a little bit better.
Certainly.
I have a HP laptop, an iPad, and a BlackBerry that I've been using for work. Everything was fine through the magic of third-party apps. I had them all synced together. But now that my company switched to Microsoft Exchange, I can no longer get my calendar on my BlackBerry. So I'm getting a new phone. I was thinking about the Verizon Bionic, but I'm thinking, should I just make everything compatible, get an iPhone and the iPad?
Well, here's the good news. Both Android and iOS support Exchange calendars. Ironically, what doesn't do such a good... Well, I guess Windows Phone 7 does, too. And I believe, if I'm correct, that all of them work just fine with all the Exchange calendars. I'm surprised that the BlackBerry doesn't. Boy, you'd sure think BlackBerry would work fine with Exchange calendars.
Apparently, we need to install something on the server.
Oh, that's right, you do. And you're right. And Exchange administrators are often reluctant to put additional add-ons for security reasons onto their Exchange server. Yeah, so that kind of makes sense.
So would it just be easier for me to get, like I said, a tablet and the Android, or stay with the iPhone and go with the iPad?
You know, it's really a personal preference. I don't think that particular requirement it chooses one or the other. Both Android and iOS will work fine. So it's really a question of what you like better. You said you have an iPad now?
I do.
And you like it?
I do. I've always been a PC guy, but I got the iPad, and I must admit, especially a program called Evernote.
I love Evernote. Now, here's the beauty. Evernote works on everything, including Android, Windows Phone 7, everything. So I'm a huge Evernote fan. In fact, Phil Lyman, the CEO at Evernote, told me I saw him last December in Paris at the Le Web conference, and he said, you know, Leo, that fully 5% of all of our referrals come from you. You alone? That's because for years I've been singing the praises of Evernote. I'm just so fond of it. And it's free. So I really like that. So I would say if you're already using an iOS device, that's probably an argument for getting an iPhone because, for instance, many of those applications work on both platforms, and you've already bought them. You know, it's kind of like PCs and Macs now, that we have an investment in software on one of those platforms. And you may have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars invested in apps for your iPad. Just makes sense that you should get an iPhone for it. I'm an Android fan. I like Android a lot. But in this case, it sounds like an iPhone would be the right choice.
All right. Hey, I appreciate the advice.
Thanks, Tom. And they'll both work with Exchange just fine. That should be no trouble at all. Exchange is the Windows or Microsoft email server software, and very commonly used in businesses. That's a flaw in the BlackBerry. I think BlackBerry wants you to have the BlackBerry Enterprise server running. But, you know, why should a company do that? They're already running Exchange, and Android and iOS both work fine with Exchange. Why should a company have to run BlackBerry Enterprise server? Oh, and yes, good point. Somebody, Kaneko in the chat room says, don't forget to tell them to wait for the iPhone 5. I would not buy it. I'd be reluctant to buy an iPhone right now. I think we're starting to see discounting on the iPhone 4, probably because everybody knows in 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're going to see an iPhone 5. One advantage on the iPhone 5, besides somewhat improved hardware, not hugely, but somewhat improved hardware. Remember, Apple doesn't make huge jumps. They gradually, incrementally improve their stuff, is that I suspect it will be available now on Verizon, AT&T, and Sprint. Who knows, maybe even T-Mobile at this point, that Apple's going to make sure that every carrier has the iPhone. So if you're already on a carrier, you should be able to get an iPhone on that carrier. Yeah, Best Buy's doing a $99 iPhone 4. That sets it. That proves it. You have to keep it for 2 weeks and you get a rebate. But that's now remember, all these prices are for people who are either starting new contracts or at the end of their 2-year life cycle for their existing phone. If you have to buy an iPhone outright, it's $500 to $600. It's expensive. Bob in Hemet, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Bob.
Well, hi, Leo. Good talking to you.
Great talking to you. What can I do for you today?
Now, I have a problem. I have a PDF to Word converter. It's been working great, fantastic. Opened it up today and went to it, and it said click install update. I installed update. It emptied the folder and switched to another company. And
I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. That's pretty. That's a predatory practice.
I've been rehearsing to myself all morning, so that's what happened. It was a fantastic one for the money, and now the one it switched to. It looks like they took over the company that I had. I don't know if I can mention
what was the name? Yeah, please. What was the original and what's the new company?
Well, the original one is AnyBiz Software. They're a PDF converter. Works fantastic. And now it's switched to Wondershare. And the exact same format, everything, but then I have to pay the $59 again.
What?
To make that work. Yeah, I don't understand this.
It sounds like they sold out.
Yeah.
And now you are. That's really unfortunate.
And I really wanted to warn anybody else, if you have AnyBiz software, don't click on the update because that'll wipe out. Because I'm looking at my AnyBiz software folder. It emptied it out.
Yeah, I'm looking on the AnyBiz website, and it says AnyBiz is a sub-brand of Wondershare.
Yeah.
And so now Wondershare is... I like Big Ginge in the chat room says, Wondershare, that doesn't sound dodgy at all.
I know.
So we're looking, chat room can help me out with this. So your Windows 7, Windows XP?
XP.
XP. So we want XP, we want a good free, hey, let's make it free. What do you say? Free PDF to Microsoft Word converter. One way to do it, Google Docs will do it for free. If you can open a PDF in Google Docs and it will save it out in a Word compatible format. I'm not sure how. I think what you want though is you want to preserve a lot of the formatting, right? Do you have fancy formatting in there and stuff?
That is correct. This one had very good optical recognition. I've tried about 5.
Oh, it has OCR in it too. Oh, that gets a little more complicated.
Yeah, man, I have one in mind that I just tried out that seemed to work real well. May I mention it?
Yeah.
Nitro. How's that?
Yeah, I've heard good things about Nitro. They're telling me about the website Zamzar, ZAMZAR.com, that does it for free, too. We'll keep looking for you. Nitro's pretty good, though. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Yeah, I quickly want to mention Netflix. Oh, I love Netflix. What was I watching last night on Netflix? I can't remember. Futurama. I don't get Futurama. I don't know if I like Futurama. It's not as funny as you like it?
I've just been going through all the Star Trek and I needed a break from Star Trek.
Yeah, right.
So it was just something to cleanse my palate from all Star Trek. And it's stuff I hadn't watched. I hadn't seen before.
You know what's fun to watch is The Terminator because it's so dated. 1984, the special effects and everything, the first Terminator, and yet it's so good. but it's really, the special effects are really cheesy. Abby and I have been watching all the episodes of 30 Rock. It's so fun. 5 seasons, hundreds of episodes. What else we got? Moonstruck, that was a great movie. So here's the deal with the Netflix streaming. It's only $7.99 a month. And you just got all these TV shows and movies. And the thing is, it's changing all the time. And you never really have to, plan ahead. That's what I like about it. Because, with the discs or the movie store, you got to think ahead. This plays on your iPad, your iPhone. By the way, almost every Android device now. They've added almost all the Android devices. So if you haven't tried it recently on your Android device, check. Netflix streaming is now available there, too. And so you pay one fee, $7.99, and you can watch it on all these different devices. You can even watch 2 different movies at the same time. I found out because I did that the other day. Here's the deal. If you're not a member, please do us a favor. Help support the Tech Guy podcast by going to Netflix.com. Whoops. I'm not going to watch this movie. You're almost ready to watch A Summer in Genoa. Well, I do like Catherine Keener. See, that's the other thing is you find these movies that you've never heard of. It's really fun. Netflix.com/twit to try it free for 30 days. If you're already a Netflix member, that's fine. Oh, the kid stays in the picture. I do want to watch that. The Robert Evans story. Is this a documentary? Yeah, I got to watch that. Netflix.com/twit. If you're already a member, tell your friends, will you? Help us out. Help me out here. Give us a little hand here. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And this is a show that you've been looking for all this time that helps you understand technology, computers, the internet, and cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, all that home electronic stuff. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the number if you want to call in and ask a question. Get a little hand-holding on the information superhighway. 888-827-5536. I would love to hear from you. We have a great chat room, too. Love the chat room. If you want to join us in the chat room, just all you have to do is go to techguylabs.com, our website, and join the almost 1,000 people in there now, 926 people. There'll be 1,000 before the end of the hour. And we can get you in there, and you'll be like the kids in the back of the class, the wiseacres. But I'll tell you what, when I don't know an answer, like our last caller, I just asked the chat room, and man, they come up with lots of good solutions. They're really great. And you could be a participant in that. Thanks to our great moderators who keep it family friendly and safe, and all of our great participants, 1,000 strong. 8888 Ask Leo. That's also on the website, as long with all of our previous shows. 804 shows so far. This is show 804. Not only show notes, but actual audio. And on many of these newer shows, we have video too. And we stream video as well from the Tech Guy Labs. If you want to see our brand new facility. Oh, it's so pretty. Really crazy to build us. This is the nicest radio station I've ever worked in. 8888 Ask Leo's the phone number, but the website is techguylabs.com. Bob is in San Diego. Bob's going to be our next caller today. Hey, Bob, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo. Thanks for taking my call. My question is specifically directed about a ruggedized outdoor-type laptop computer made by G-Tech, the S400 model, and it's semi-weatherproof. I'm going to be using it outside in the evenings, a lot of time in cold weather, to control a Celestron telescope mount.
Oh, cool. What a great idea.
My question is, have you got any opinions on this particular brand? Because they're somewhat of an off-brand. They're not available in any of the local retailers. And then it comes with an option of either an Intel i3 or an Intel i5 chip. And I plan to just keep it exclusively for my use, for my photography and my telescope stuff. And am I going to notice any difference, or is there any advantage to either of the processors?
You know, I'm not familiar with the GTACs, GETAC.com, if people are curious about them, but I'm looking at them. They look pretty tough. They're mil-spec, which is pretty good. You know, typically, when people ask me for ruggedized computers, I'll recommend the Panasonic Toughbooks, but that's mostly because they're the best-known name. These guys look impressive. Magnesium alloy cases, shock-mounted hard drives, sealed I/O caps. That's important to keep dust and moisture out of there.
Yeah, that's one of my concerns.
Yeah, these look pretty good. Now you're using them at night, so you don't really care about the screen. Although
it'll probably be shrouded so it doesn't wreck night vision.
Right.
For other observers in the area.
Right. I think that the chat room is saying, yeah. In fact, Colt in the chat room saying it's better than the Toughbooks. These look pretty good. I'm impressed. So while I have not used them myself, I'm going to have to order one and give it a try. Now, in regards to the i3 versus i5, Intel made the i3. The newest Intel processors are i3, 5, and 7. Sandy Bridge processors in most cases. The big difference between the 3 and the 5 is the amount of cache, not the number of core, as I remember. But I'm not a fan of the i3. The i3 was really created so they could make a low-cost computer. The i5 is the sweet spot.
Okay, so processing.
I mean, but the thing is, if you're is it going to be entirely used to control a telescope?
Well, there's some specific, hobby-specific software that goes with it, but part of the software package from a company called Maxim DL is post-image processing.
Yeah, you might want some speed. I'm sorry, it's not just cache. The chat room's informing me it's i3 was 2-core, i5 and 7 are 4-core. So I think you're going to get a significant improvement with the i5. How much more expensive is it?
About $500.
Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been a fan of the i3. I feel like it's Intel does this from time to time. They did it with a Celeron, you might remember. They're artificially underpowered so that they can have a low-price computer. $500 is a lot.
It's not a cheap date anyway.
Pardon me?
I say it's not exactly a cheap date anyway.
Yeah, $500 is a lot for, the real question is, do I need that power? And I don't know. If you're doing post-processing, that's going to use power. But on the other hand, all more power does is make it faster.
Yeah, I'm not in that big of a hurry, honestly.
Yeah, then I'd say the i3 is fine. But remember, these chips are light years faster than anything you've been using up to now, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've got a latitude now, and I'm just looking for something I can take in the field, and if it gets, dropped out of the back of the truck or, somehow bumped off of the setup table and everything like that,
right. Well, and more importantly, dew and moisture, and I think this looks really great. I'd say you don't need to go i5, because that's a big jump in price. I think that's an awfully big jump in price. I'm not sure I like that.
I think going with the i5, if I'm not mistaken, it also gives you the ability to go to the touch screen.
Right.
Display and a whole bit like that, which is something that I'm really not interested in.
No, stick with the i3 for what you're doing. I mean, this is kind of particularly this computer is just particular use for your astronomy stuff. I think you're probably fine. I see. Yeah, what they do is they turn it into a convertible that you can flip around and make a touchpad and all that. I don't really think that's worth the money. I'd say go with the i3. Yeah, and the chat room seems to agree. These G-Tacks are good. Just looking at the specs, they look great. They look really great. These things are tough.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Anything that meets mil spec standards is going to be good. They even have standards for electromagnetic interference and things. I mean, this is a hardcore ruggedized laptop.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd say 2 thumbs up, Bob. And I'll do? I'll see if I can get one and knock it around a bit, drop it off the roof, and see what happens. I gotta be honest, not recommended. Do not, don't expect to drop it off your truck and have it survive. Nothing can be that rugged. How cool, though. This is astronomy, like everything else, has been heavily computerized these days. And these telescopes like the Celestron, you hook them up to a computer, it aims. You say, find me Polaris, and it goes and finds it. Just amazing. It's really cool what you could do these days. 8888 Ask Leo, Memphis, Tennessee, our next locale. Tracy is on the line. Hi, Tracy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Yeah, I'm a first-time caller, and I was wondering, are there any security differences between a wired router and a wireless router?
That's a great question. In theory, because you're wireless, you're broadcasting the data that would be going over the wire. So is there any way that we can make sure that broadcast is protected from somebody who might want to pick it up and snoop on it? And the truth is we can make a wireless router as secure as a wired router very easily. And all you have to do, the only thing you have to do, I know people will give you all sorts of things, but there's only one thing that makes any difference. It's something you should do, you must do, and it's all you need to do. It's both required and sufficient, and it's turn on WPA2 encryption.
WPA2?
Mm-hmm. And what'll happen when you do that is it'll ask for a password, and then the first time your computer gets on that WPA2 network, you'll have to give it that password, and after that, you're done. I'll explain a little more when we come back, Tracy. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Ground control to Major Tom. Take your protein pills and put your helmet on.
A little space
Ground control to Major
from Mr. David Bowie. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We were talking to Tracy about securing his Wi-Fi router. This is actually a good thing to know. You'll hear people say, oh, you got to turn off SSID, or you got to turn on access control via MAC address, or, oh, you got to do this or that. Really, there's only one thing, and that's turn on encryption. Now, there's different kinds of encryption in your Wi-Fi router. The original Wi-Fi encryption standard was called WEP. And actually, WEP was specifically what you were asking for, Tracy, which is Wired Equivalent Protocol. In other words, the same kind of security you could expect on a wired router. Except that it wasn't, because it was misdesigned, and it's easy to crack. And any script kiddie out there with a free program called Cain and Abel can crack it in about 30 seconds. So, whoops, that's not so good. I mean, it's effective. Your neighbors aren't going to crack it. It's only if, somebody says, boy, I bet Tracy's doing some banking right now or something, and wants to get into your system, and he could then sit on the curb and use a tool to crack it. So we say use WPA. WPA or WPA2. WPA2 is marginally better. There's a very obscure and very difficult to implement hack on WPA. So, for maximum safety, WPA2. Now, of course, all your devices have to support WPA or it won't work. But most modern devices, Wi-Fi devices, have no trouble with WPA. And WPA2 AES is the one you want to use. You'll get, you'll see a number of flavors. Now, there's some other things I would do to any router, wired or wireless, to make it safer. One is to turn off UPnP. Not all routers support UPnP, notably the Apple routers, but most routers do. It's a Microsoft technology that allows the computer to reconfigure the router silently without warning. We don't want that because, of course, that's what a bad guy might want to do, is reconfigure your router to benefit him. So let's not have that happen. You also want to turn off WAN administration. That's the ability to administer router settings from outside your network. No. There's some specific reasons you might want to do that. We got an email from somebody who said, well, when I was helping my girlfriend with her network, I had WAN administration so I could fix her router from afar. Okay, maybe. But normally, no WAN administration, no UPnP. And finally, you should change the name of the router and change the default password, because every bad guy knows the default password in the name.
Okay, that'll work. All right.
Thanks, Tracy. I appreciate your call. And I do like to go through that every few weeks because I think it's really important. And most of us are using wireless routers. You don't have to feel afraid. It is completely secure. Most of the security issues on the internet don't have to do with right here, what's floating around through the air right where you are. It starts at your internet service provider and out. You remember, people often say, oh, Google or Facebook, they're spying on you. Hey, you know who knows everything you do online? Your internet service provider. And you know who has insisted that internet service providers save everything you do online for a minimum of 2 years? The federal government. You know why they save that? Well, they say it's, to investigate criminal activity. But included in criminal activity is piracy, music piracy. So just, kind of be aware of the fact that your privacy can be compromised easily by government and by the Recording Industry Association of America. There was a story that crossed the wires this morning about an attorney who was working for a German movie company. And the way it works now, if a movie company, the Hurt Locker, they've been suing a lot of people, or a record company, the Recording Industry Association of America sued tens of thousands of people. What they have to do first is they go out on the internet and they look for people who are using BitTorrent or other kinds of file sharing programs. But that will only give them an internet address, a number. And that's, you can't fine or sue or arrest somebody for a number. You need a name, you need an address. So the next step is to go to a court and say, they do what they call a John Doe lawsuit. They say, we don't know this person's name, we know his number, his internet address, 24.10.3.1. Now the court can then issue a subpoena to the internet service provider saying, we have a John Doe who was at 24.10.3.1 at 3:15 on Tuesday, who downloaded the Hurt Locker. What's his name? And at that point, your internet service provider usually will hand over the information, name and address. Well, I shouldn't say usually, because sometimes what internet service providers do, and I kind of commend them for this, is say, yeah, we'll send them a letter. And they send you a letter saying, you really ought to knock this off. But if the court issues a subpoena, they're going to give you the name and address. So the record company might come to the internet service provider first, because they can tell from the number who the internet service provider is. They know that much. They know what region you're in and who your ISP is. 24.10.3.1, you're a Comcast customer in the Northeast United States. So they'll go to Comcast and say, hey, this guy's stealing. And Comcast generally will send you a letter saying, hey, knock it off. And then it depends on the internet service provider how many times you get to do that. If the plaintiff goes to a court and gets a subpoena, then Comcast has to give them the information. And at that point, you can be sued. And so that's kind of what's going on. So this attorney working for this German company, the court said, no, we're not going to give you a subpoena yet. He didn't care. He got the information and he went after these people, threatened them, maybe even settled with them, even though the court specifically had said, no, you may not. He did it anyway. The courts fined him $10,000. I suspect that's a slap on the wrist. They did require him to write to every other judge who this attorney has a case in front of saying, just so you know, I did that. So these guys, I mean, they're out to get you. So that's my point being, you can have encryption, you can do all that, but once it gets to your internet service provider and beyond, there's lots of people who can find out what you're doing, including bad guys and good guys. Gary in Farmington Hills, Michigan. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I'm great, Gary. How are you?
I'm good, except I got a problem. I finally jumped into the smartphone world.
Yay!
Yeah, I know. Welcome to it. It's sliced bread, believe it or not. You probably heard about it. But I was a loyal Palm PDA user for 5-10 years, and I've got a lot of stuff on a Palm TX. I can't get it to my phone. Is there a way to do that?
Yeah. So good. You know what? You're going to like these smartphones because you're already a PDA user. Really, what a smartphone is a PDA phone. That's why PDAs died, personal digital assistants. There are no more Palms gone. Because everybody's got a smartphone. So what you'll do is you'll sync your TX, your Palm device, to the Palm desktop. I presume you're already doing that.
Yeah.
So that Palm desktop can now export the data.
Okay.
Is your smartphone, well, it doesn't really matter if it's an Apple or an Android phone. Both of them will sync with Google. So what I do, and I recommend this, is let Google store this information. So if you go to Google's calendar and contacts information page, you can see how to sync that with your Palm desktop. And then your phone will just pick it up very quickly and automatically. September 11th, 2011, the 10-year anniversary. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Talking tech, taking your calls, 8888. Ask Leo. Did I completely answer our last caller? I can't remember. Did I go into all the detail I needed to do on that one? I think so. Joe in New York, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Joe.
How you doing, Leo?
I'm well.
Studio looks great.
It's pretty, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
TV again. I just wanted to say first, your coverage of the Twin Towers, I guess 10 years ago today, I was quite impressed.
Wow, I vividly remember, as everybody does, I think, where they were and what they were doing on 9/11. And we were on Tech TV. We had Tech Live, and Erica Hill and I. Erica's, of course, now anchors CBS This Morning, but Erica Hill and I, among others, did do our best job of covering it.
Yeah. It was strange to see it turn serious like that, but you covered it great.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm normally a goofball. I remember very, vividly that Erica, who had a lot of friends in New York and was from Connecticut, was just, it's really, it is, I think, the case that people who were in New York particularly, but East Coast in general, have almost a different gut, visceral sense of 9/11 than we on the West Coast did. It was, of course it affected all of us, but if you were there or you had friends there, it was just devastating. And I remember Erica was in tears. It was just very difficult. But boy, she's a pro, and I'm so glad she's done so well for herself.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I had just a couple of quick questions for you. One, there was a show that aired on Tech TV. It was, I think it was Flash animation, and I think there were amateurs that sent in short cartoons. They'd be like long. I remember one was like instrumental, but no people, just the like somebody playing the xylophone and different, like orchestra, like a whole orchestra, but there were no people. It was just the, you'd see all the instruments moving and the sound playing. Another one, I think, was called Eye Drops.
Oh, yeah, Eye Drops. Yeah. Well, you're bringing back memories. I mean, this is now 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes, it may be right in front of me, but I can't seem to find any of it.
Well, and this is kind of sad. So Tech TV, which was the network that I helped start and worked for, did 2 shows a day on from 1998 to 2004, was owned at the end by Paul Allen, the Microsoft billionaire. Paul was losing a lot of money on it and decided that he didn't want to lose money anymore, so he sold it. It's funny because we had a very good, I found out later, a very good offer from Sony. And Sony would probably have kept the channel unchanged, but Paul was in a hurry. Sony said, well, we need to go back to Japan and talk to them, and et cetera, et cetera. And Paul said, no, I'm in too much of a hurry. I'm going to sell it to Comcast for less. And Comcast didn't want the channel. What Comcast wanted was the audience. So they moved it to L.A., merged it with their failed gaming channel, G4,
right,
and essentially killed it. The shows that I did were canceled. The only show that survived was, Adam and Morgan, the gaming show, because it was a gaming network. And they did keep the screensavers for a little while, but it was without me, and it was a very different show. It's now called Attack of the Show, and it's done quite well, I think. I think it's their only hit. But the real problem is that all the stuff that we used to do, all the video that we had, is owned by Comcast, and they're basically sitting on it. So they've told me we have it. They said not only do we have it, but we've digitized it. We've put it on hard drives. I think for a while there was a thought that they would put it online for the nostalgia factor, but I'm sure somebody pointed out, well, that's going to cost you a lot of money, and come on, who's going to want to watch 10-year-old computer shows? And they probably are right. Some of it's on YouTube, some of it survives, but almost every case when I post something, G4 takes it down. They issue a takedown request to YouTube, and it's pulled off. So most of the stuff that's
something I'll never be able to get, really.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is that unfortunately, Joe, it all belongs to G4 through Comcast, and they apparently have no interest in sharing it and don't want anybody else to share it. Which makes me sad, because I think there are a lot of it. For instance, that coverage of 9/11. Were you in New York during 9/11?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
What's your memory of it? Where were you?
Oh, I'm an auto damage appraiser, and I was just getting ready to leave the house to do my run, and called in to check my messages, and then there was a mass, voice message out to the whole crew. About to post, listen to the radio and see what's going on, and, just stay where you are right now. And I turned on the TV and saw right away.
Yeah.
This was 8:45 in the morning. And so that's where I pretty much sat in front of the TV. But when I turned to your station, I saw that your coverage of it was so good that I just watched that all day.
Well, thank you.
It was a sad day, and
terrible.
If you could see today what's going on, they're reading off the names, kind of bringing everything back.
It is. And I understand Paul Simon sang "Sounds of Silence," which must have been an amazingly moving moment.
It's there's nothing you can really say about it.
There isn't. Yeah. But, it's good to remember that.
You did a good job to keep everybody under control. That's what I thought. And instead of people running around, what do I do? What do I do? Your voice was different, and they could see something serious was going on, and people just listened. They waited and listened.
I remember we didn't do a show for a few days after that, and we decided at some point, well, we really need to start doing the screensavers again. And I think we lit candles that day, and it was a very somber day to do a show. And nobody really wanted to do a show, and yet we kind of did. The nation wanted to shut down. At the same time, we didn't want to be shut down by terrorists. So it felt important for everybody to kind of get back to work.
Right.
Well, thank you, Joe, for your memories and for your very kind words. I appreciate it. Now,
if you can, I appreciate that. One other question, if you can, is probably a fast one for you. With iTunes, I buy I buy a single, download it to the computer. It used to transfer to my other Macs from the iPod.
Right.
And it hasn't done that for a long time.
Yeah, when you'd sync up the iPod, it would say, I see you have purchased music on here. Would you like me to transfer it?
Right. it's not doing that now. And I haven't put the newest one on. The newest.
I would upgrade your iTunes because, for one thing, they've added a new feature which is great. You can, in any iTunes, download already purchased music now.
Oh, so I can download it to the other machines
directly. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You don't need to pull it off the iPod. Maybe that's why I still see that when I hook up my iPad, but maybe that's why they don't pop it up anymore, is because they've added this great feature where anything you've purchased on iTunes, if you go to your purchased music, you'll see stuff that's in my library and stuff that's not, and you can click a button and download the stuff that's not, which is, I think, fantastic. Joe, thank you so much. I really appreciate your kind words and calling. Oh, one more thing, Joe. And this is from the chat room. There is a site called Anna Music, which is really interesting. It's computer animated music, instruments, and the music. I wonder if this is what you're talking about. Chat room seems to think it might be. Computer animated music, and you can see some of it on YouTube as well. Just do a Google search for ANIMUSIC. Anna Music. And that might well be what you're looking for. Wouldn't that be something? Chat room's amazing. If you want to join us in the chat room or get links to any of the things I talk about, go to the website, techguylabs.com. So imagine this. It's kind of cool music with animated graphics of the instruments being played. It's pretty cool. If you search ANIMUSIC on Google, you'll find it. I bet you that's what Joe was talking about. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Jim is in Apple Valley, our next caller. Hi, Jim.
Hey, Leo.
Hey, Jim.
You know,
I've do.
Been to Petaluma.
You've been to Petaluma?
Yes.
That's where the Tech Guy Labs, that's where our secret location is.
Oh, Petaluma is so beautiful.
Thank you.
I bought a car there. I did, and then I had to fix it to drive it home. But it was a 1973 Mercedes, and it was in 1972 or 3 when I was in the Petaluma.
Well, we've changed a lot since 1972 or 3.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
Yeah, we've got a stoplight now.
God, you didn't have one then.
Right in the middle of town.
No, you didn't stop sign.
No, probably not in 1972. Yeah, this is a beautiful community. It's about an hour north of San Francisco. So it's kind of a bedroom community for some. Some commute. That's how I first got here, was commuting to the city. But it's also an agricultural area, and Sonoma County, our county, is a big wine district. So it's a nice place to be, I got to say. I really like it here.
Back then, it was beautiful.
Yeah, it's beautiful still.
And I bought that car, and I drove it down here. Oh, jeez. Oh, okay.
Jim, why don't you give me a question? Let's come back to the present, Jim. It's 40 years later.
It was a long time ago, but okay, what I do now every morning when I wake up,
yes,
crawl out of my bed,
yes,
I pick up my laptop.
Who doesn't nowadays?
And I actually do put it in the freezer.
Okay, why do you put it in the freezer?
Because if I don't put it in the freezer and leave it there for 15, 20 minutes, it won't boot up.
Oh, that's interesting. And so now there's a risk. Now, by the way, this is not an unusual procedure for attempting to save a hard drive, but there's a real problem with it, because when it's cold and then it comes out into the warm air of your bedroom, you can have condensation. You know, if it's at all humid, if you lived in Phoenix, Arizona, this would work great. But if it's at all humid, it'll condense the moisture out of the air, and of course that's the worst thing for electronics.
Okay, let me tell you where I live. Okay, it's Southern California.
Yeah.
It's at Apple Valley. Actually, the valley I live in is Fairview Valley. 4 miles to pavement, and it's
well, Jim, I'm just going to move on here because I think he's probably watching a football game, having a good time. But yeah, I've heard of this. I don't recommend it as a regular thing. So it could be a couple of things. Could be the laptop's overheating, and then just kind of the residual cooling from having been in the freezer allows it to operate for a while. Could be the hard drive itself is having some issues. Usually putting it in the freezer and then recovering it is a one-time only thing, and after that the thing is dead as a doornail. So you got to really, if you're going to do that technique, not recommended, but if all else has failed, sometimes putting it in the freezer and then doing a recovery immediately works, but usually that means that's the end of that. That drive's dead. I would not recommend keeping your laptop in the freezer. It's a sign of a larger problem, shall we say. But the first step is admitting you've got a problem. Jay in Los Angeles, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Jay.
Hello, Leo. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
I've been better. Actually, I'm just trying to change cell phones. And I'm trying to change from a Motorola Click, the original, to either the Samsung Gravity Smart or the MyTouch 4G Slide.
Okay.
I was trying to find out which is closer to it, but still being better.
The Click CLI-Q is an Android smartphone.
Yes.
It's a fairly old Android smartphone, so I think you're probably...
Strangely enough, it became old almost immediately.
Welcome to the world of smartphones. I mean, there's not anything wrong with it. It supports 3G. It's got a decent camera.
That's why.
Do you need a keyboard? Is that the thing that you're looking for?
Yes.
A physical slider keyboard. And you probably noted that there are fewer and fewer of those available now in the Android space.
I don't know why, but I think it's a bad design to have everything on the screen because you lose so much space.
Yes, I agree. When that keyboard slides up, frequently I'm going, no, get out of the way. I can't stop it. And yet, I do like the idea of having an ultra-thin phone because, of course, the keyboard makes these phones, and the Click is a good example, a lot thicker, a lot bigger. So I have gotten used to the idea of a on-screen keyboard, as have many. In fact, so many that you're noticing they don't make very many slide-out keyboards anymore. So what are the...
Because of the problem that I had, which is on the Click, it shorted out 3 times, and I'm on my 4th replacement phone.
Ay, ay, ay.
And I think it's because the back screen is being used as a grounding system.
Could be. Could well be. That's an interesting theory. So you like the MyTouch, the new MyTouch 4G. By the way, that's confusing because the next MyTouch has no slider. It's the Galaxy S2. But that's not out yet. That'll be that we don't know. Sometime next couple of months, T-Mobile will release this one. I like this. This is a year-old phone. It's not the most recent. I think though you'll be very happy with it. It's comparable to the Click. It has a better camera. It's a little. I wonder what version now of the operating system. That's the big question. Is what version of Android do you get? I would demand at least 2.2. The current version is 2.3.6. And Derek Schmidt, the CEO, former CEO, now chairman of the board of Google, says the next couple of months, 4.0 is going to come out. So I would say, Jay, if you want something comparable to what you've got, I would say the MyTouch is exactly what you want. But do remember that it's going to be obsoleted almost as quickly as that whole Click. Then that's just going to be the problem in general of any phone with a slide-out keyboard. I hate to say it. Before we go on to our next call, I do want to mention our friends at Carbonite. I got to talk about backup. It's so important. So important that you back up your data. You know that. Because when the bad stuff happens, hard drives die, you have to put them in the freezer. Why do people put them in the freezer? Because they don't have a backup. Nigel is in Costa Mesa. Well, actually, I'm confused. You're in England now, but you're from Costa Mesa.
Hello, yes. I live in Costa Mesa. I'm currently phoning from England.
All right.
I'm listening to KFI on the web.
That's great.
It would be, but I'm looking at a screen that says licensed content access request.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so you're using iHeartRadio probably. Or you're the KFI website. Yeah, so here's the deal with that. And Clear Channel, which owns many of the stations that we're on and owns the syndicator, changed the way I think in almost all cases allow internet streaming of their radio stations. And I understand why they did this. You have to be in the U.S. to listen. Now, the reason they did that is a little more complicated, and I'm running out of time. So I'll tell you what, Nigel. Don't hold on because you're calling from me, but I will explain it, and I will tell you a way around it when we get back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And this is the show where we talk about, all that stuff. iPads and iPhones, Android phones and Windows 7 phones and home theater. Oh, yeah, we talk about computers and the internet, too. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number if you want to call and ask a question, make a comment, make a suggestion. 888-827-5536. That's the phone number. We had a call from Bob last hour asking about old tech TV shows. And somebody in the chat room gave me a link to a BitTorrent file of 43 gigabytes of old tech TV shows. Now, of course, the rights to those are, I think, held by Comcast and G4. They bought the TV channel. And I just thought, well, I should have these. These are the shows I did load those many years ago, and I don't have copies of them. It'd be nice to have them. Every time somebody puts them on YouTube, there's quite a few clips on YouTube, but a lot of them get pulled down. But of course, technically, I think it's probably illegal for me to download my old shows. And I was just saying, it'd be kind of funny if they sued me for downloading shows that I used to do. Wonder would I get in trouble for that? It's interesting. Can you pirate your own stuff? I think it happens in the music industry, where a label will own a record, not the artist anymore. Artist can't then go go online and put that record on his website. He'll get sued, even though it's his own music. I don't know if this is comparable. What do you think, John? John, my attorney, John Slanina, is here, and he doesn't have a law degree, though. That's kind of a problem. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the phone number. Nigel was talking to us about an interesting issue, and I don't want to kind of give it short shrift, so we had to take a break, but let me explain. Yes, I'm glad you are. Thank you. My pleasure. Here's the issue. It costs money to do, I know this very well because this is what I do for a living, is stream internet content. I have a whole network, and it costs money to do that. It's not like a television or a radio broadcast, and this is where radio broadcasters kind of have a little sticker shock. They build an antenna, they buy a transmitter, they hire staff, and they broadcast. If one person listens or 500 million people listen, it doesn't cost them any more money. Because that broadcast just is out there. It's everywhere. Anybody wants to listen to. The Internet's the exact opposite. It's much more like, say, newspaper or magazine publishing, where every single person who listens to a show costs you money. And a not insignificant amount of money. If you stream my entire 3-hour show, that's megabytes of download. You multiply that times 1,000 people. And then what happens is the radio station, which said, hey, we really ought to put this online so people can listen, gets a bill for thousands of dollars. They go, whoa, wait a minute. Now, radio stations, including KFI, the station you're listening to, do sell advertisements on the internet stream separately from the broadcast stream. So they are able to make money on those internet broadcasts. But you'll note one thing, Nigel, all the advertisers, and this is kind of the biggest problem right now with internet broadcasting, all the advertisers are in L.A., maybe in the U.S. None are in England. And so they don't get paid for listeners outside of the U.S. And this is a problem that I have with my own podcasts. We've actually been able to condition our advertisers. It's not been easy, but we've been able to convince them that 30% of my podcasts, for instance, of all of the shows I do, 30% are downloaded outside the U.S. Most of our advertisers now pay for those additional 30%. But initially, they didn't want to. They said, well, wait a minute. We're the U.S. agency for Ford Motor Cars. We don't care if Ford sells a car in England. It doesn't benefit us in any way, so we're not going to pay for it. Well, over time we've convinced them, but that's, we're a rare exception. I think in most cases, when a company buys an advertisement, even on an internet stream, they're paying for U.S. listeners only. So this is the problem, Nigel. And by the way, the same problem goes the other way with BBC's iPlayer, doesn't it? You can watch iPlayer, watch BBC shows in the UK, but when you get back to Costa Mesa, iPlayer blocks you. For the same reason, because the British public pays for the BBC, not Americans. Similarly, Americans and American advertisers pay for the internet stream from KFI, not Brits. In both cases, I think it's a bad policy. But I understand why they do that. It costs them money. So they try to block international listeners because they can't make money. Now, there are ways around it. There are internet radio programs that will, I think, transcend, software that I think will transcend national boundaries. I use on Android a really nice tuner. It's called, what is it called? I have to look at my Android device. I think it's called TuneIn.
I've been able to get this thing to work by just telling them I live in Costa Mesa.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, it's easy for you because you go back and forth. You probably have a U.S. credit card or whatever they need to verify locale.
All they needed was the Costa Mesa, California.
Yeah.
It worked.
Well, good. So they're not being too draconian in their requirements. But we had a caller yesterday said, I want to watch BBC shows on iPlayer, and the way he was doing that, he was in Denmark, was using a proxy server. Another way to do it would be to use a program like this great, I love this program. It's not a free program. It's a couple of bucks for Android called TuneIn. Actually, it's on iPhone too. It's called TuneIn, and it's a great little radio player. And you can find KFI on it. You can find all of our stuff on it too. TWiT is on it as well. So you can listen to stations this way. And I think this ends around the restrictions of iHeartRadio and the KFI website. I do like iHeartRadio. In fact, I encourage you to try it because they've just added a Pandora-style artist stations to iHeartRadio. So that's a nice app. iHeartRadio on Android, on iPhone, and on the web. iHeartRadio, IHEART radio. TuneIn has a free version. Okay, cool. I paid for it because I like it. It's worth it. This is really not. Radio on your smartphone is fantastic. I mean, you can listen to almost every station, often in better quality than you can, and the HD versions are also on here than you can on broadcast. Radio, just like newspapers and television and everything else, the music industry, we're going through a huge upheaval because of the internet. And it just really behooves every industry that's facing competition from the internet to look at what they can do to make it work. Otherwise, guess what, kids? The internet's here to stay, and you're going to be out of business. Look at the New York Times. Arthur Sulzberger, the publisher of the New York Times, said very famously a couple of years ago, I don't think by the end of the decade, by what would that be, 2020, I don't think there'll be a print version of the New York Times. They realize that, and anybody who's in the newspaper business surely ought to realize this, they've got to find a way to make it work on the internet. Now, it's challenging. And again, as a small business owner, I understand that. You build a business around a certain way of making money, a certain business model, it's called. And it's deucedly difficult to change your business model in midstream. That's why the cable companies are struggling. Newspapers are struggling. Radio stations are struggling. It's very challenging. But it is what is happening. So, Nigel, I'm glad you found a way. I agree. I understand your grief. I also, I want to be even-handed. I understand the radio station's point of view as well. That's what they elected to do. Certainly had they asked me, which they didn't, I would have lobbied against it. But I've talked. I know many radio station owners who get huge sticker shock because they this happened 10 years ago. People said, hey, we'll get you on the internet. You can stream. You'll have more listeners in the offices and stuff where they can't get radio. They'll be listening, and they go, yeah, that's great. And then they get the bill and they go, yeah. You mean it's going to cost me money? A lot of money. It's a different model, and they're not used to it. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Let's talk tech. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. That, of course, is the old Screensavers theme. Every time I hear it, I get a little nervous. Because right in the middle of that, we're driving around these weird... They have them in San Francisco. I imagine other tourist areas have them. They're like motorcycles, two-man cars, but they're really just motorcycles with a kind of a big body over them. And they're death traps. And you can even see, if you go to YouTube and watch the Screensavers open the video, we go over, we kind of start tipping over. My co-host, Patrick Norton, who's an insane person, was driving. And driving way too fast. We almost died. So every time I hear that, I go, oh, that was the time I almost died. Mary, Redondo Beach, California. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Leo. You're doing a great job today.
Well, bless you. Thank you.
And so I have a question. I recently purchased a new laptop, and I was out of state with the laptop, my old one. I took it someplace, had them wipe all of the old information off. The new computer just had the Windows program that does not include Outlook Express, which is how I was accessing my emails.
Yeah, Microsoft doesn't do Outlook Express. They stopped it. They killed it. But there is a replacement.
Well, the replacement is $140.
No, there's a free replacement. You're looking at Outlook. There's Windows Live Essentials. It's called Live Mail. And Outlook Express was not a great program, and Microsoft kind of just stopped developing it about 4 years ago. So here's what you do. Go in your browser.
Well, can I finish my question?
Sure.
Okay. So the place that I took it to that wiped the information off and transferred it to the new computer, they told me that they stored all of my old information that was on the Outlook program, like old emails that were important to me that I saved, email addresses, and they put them in like some kind of black hole in my computer. And they told me the only way that I could access them was to get an Outlook Explorer program.
Well, I don't know what they did, but they were stupid. And they're wrong.
Okay.
You first have to ask them, though, where did you put those files? There's no such thing as a black hole. It's in a folder somewhere. Where did you put those files? And then you need to go, Mary, to get.live.com in your browser. And get.live.com, and it'll say, okay, here's, you want to get our Windows Live Essentials? Yes, please. One of those Live Essential programs will be Windows Live Mail. That's free. It's their replacement for Outlook Express. And if you can figure out where they stuck your stuff, you can import it directly into Live Mail. You do not need Outlook Express. You can't get it.
Okay. So how do you import it?
There'll be an import command in Windows Live Mail when you download it.
Okay.
So I presume you don't have these guys' phone number, that you can't talk to them.
Well, I do.
Oh, good. So just say, hey, moron, where'd you put it? Where'd you stick that thing? Because that's what they needed to tell you in the first place. Now, I suspect you could find it if you searched your hard drive for I think a .msg files.
.msg files?
Yeah, I think they're in .msg. So if you find a folder that has a number of .msg files in it, that will be the folder that you want to import into Windows Live.
Okay.
Why somebody would import something and then tell you, instead of saying, it's in this folder here, say, get a program that's it hasn't been offered by Microsoft in years and everything will be fine, which it wouldn't be, by the way. You still need to know where you stuck it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, I think that's probably your best bet. Now I'm looking at the chat room, they're saying that Outlook Express might use, instead of .msg, it might use .dbx. So search for one or the other of those. And then, .dbx, that's a database file. Maybe DBX, MBX, or MSG. Any of those three. If you could find... Look, you wouldn't have those files on your system unless there was email there.
Okay.
And it's Outlook Express, not Outlook, so that's not PST files. It'd be .msg, .dbx. It kind of depends. They haven't given you enough information to know exactly what to do. Did they export it? Did they just copy the folder? I'm not sure what they did.
Well, I'll do some investigation. And
Yeah, you could just say to them, hey, guys, what did you do and where did you put it? If they exported from Outlook Express, then you would import the .msg file. If they just moved the folder, then you'd look for a DBX or MBX file. But if you search for star.dbx on your hard drive and you find some, there'll be several of them. Those will be your Outlook Express files. And you should be able to get those into Windows Live Mail. And you know what? You're going to love Windows Live Mail. It's very similar to Outlook Express. It works. That's kind of the biggest thing. And Microsoft, in fact, you know what? I'm going to put this link in our show notes because Microsoft has a whole description of importing messages into Windows Mail from Outlook Express. It tells you step by step what to do. If it's at windows.microsoft.com, and it's the article, which we'll put a link into the show notes for you at techguylabs.com, explains step by step what to do, depending on which version of Windows you're running, etc. I presume you're running Windows 7. They don't have Windows 7 instructions, but the Vista instructions will work. It's unfortunate. You get these tech guys who they're in a hurry, so they just kind of do stuff. Say, yeah, you figure it out. Bye. They really should have given you a step-by-step. First of all, they should have known there's no Outlook Express anymore, and you can't get it. And second of all, they should have told you, well, here's what you do. Step 1, go to get.live.com, download Windows Live Mail. Step 2, go to the import command in Windows Live Mail. Step 3, here's where your files are. Here's where you import them from. It would have been nice if they told you that. Al in Mansfield, Ohio, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hi, Al.
I know that you use Chrome, and I'm using Chrome, and I'm getting really nervous when I try to download software. At the bottom, it says I could harm my computer.
Yeah, that's just a stock warning that's true but meaningless. All malware potentially. I mean, anything you download could potentially be malware.
Yeah.
But I mean, that warning is meaningless.
Okay. I mean, I didn't mind this for small companies, but when it was mainstream, that's what got me nervous,
Yeah, because they're not, they imply that we're somehow checking or looking at stuff, and they're not. It's a blanket warning to all downloads that could be dangerous. That, to me, is not a useful warning. It's like saying, don't cross the street, you could get run over every time you cross the street. Well, it's true. Maybe it'd be helpful to tell me some behaviors that I might want to avoid, or some practices I might want to adopt, instead of just saying, well, it could be dangerous.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it in Safari when I turned over to Chrome.
It's just,
the same thing that Leo's doing when I'm downloading.
I just say, yes, save it. I ignore it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Extreme. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Our phone number is 8888. Ask Leo. Better, though, if you're going to remember one thing, and I know, most brains, everything you put in there, something comes popping out. So let's put just one thing in there, and that's the website, techguylabs.com. Inside techguylabs.com, you got the phone number, the link to the chat room, the link to the live video of the show, the audio downloads of previous episodes, all the show notes, the link I just gave for converting your Outlook mail to Windows Live Mail, all of that at techguylabs.com. Back to the phones. John is in Los Angeles. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, John.
Hey, Leo. Got a question for you about video on demand.
Yes, sir.
And I was visiting a friend, and he's got charter cable. And video on demand, I see your TWiT network shows and stuff from Revision 3.
Thank you, charter cable.
And it was just great just to be able to see the video on a full-size, 42-inch.
That might, by the way, be his TV and not charter cable. I don't know, but...
well, you know what? As a matter of fact, it's not charter cable.
It's his TV.
It's TiVo.
Yeah. TiVo does that. So we my network, and that includes this show, by the way, even though it's not owned by me, it's owned by Premier Radio Networks, but they've allowed us to make podcasts of it. But my podcast network, we try to be everywhere because it's great to watch on big screen TV. So we did a deal with a company called MediaFly, and they've got an application on most TVs, on the Roku box, and so forth, to make it possible to watch both live and downloads. And then TiVo has put a few. I don't think they have all the shows, but I think they've put a few of the shows on there.
Yeah, it was amazing just to see how good it looks.
Yeah, well, it's going to look better because we're going to start doing high def downloads soon.
So you're on there. Is that because you've got a huge network and a huge following?
You know, you're asking a good question. I have no idea why we're on there.
I mean, can I put a
Well, here's how it works with TiVo. If your audience knows your RSS feed, they can enter it, and then the TiVo will get it.
Oh.
So TiVo, for some reason, decided to include us in a directory. They don't, and they don't do all our shows. I don't think. I haven't checked. So I'm very grateful, but it wasn't because we asked. Yeah, probably it's because, you know what almost always is the case? There's a fan somewhere working at TiVo.
Oh, I see.
Who went over to TiVo, you know, whoever's in charge of the directory said, hey, you really ought to put TWiT in there. That's my podcast network. And they did. I mean, admittedly, TWiT is probably the largest technology podcast network in the world, so it makes sense that we're there.
Right.
And you're right. If you start producing your own shows, it would, you'd have to start being, here's what you have to do. Be consistent. Have good production values. TiVo's not going to put something that looks awful on their directory because that reflects badly on them. And then, generate enough of an audience that TiVo thinks it's, or make a good enough show that TiVo thinks is worthwhile. I presume there's a number or somewhere to contact at TiVo, but I just don't know what it is. We just happened to get added. Now, some of our newer shows are not on their directory, so.
And all that video is coming through the internet.
It's not coming. It's not even on the TiVo. And in fact, all TiVo's really done is they've given you an interface to our downloads. So when you watch it, it actually goes out on your TiVo has to be internet connected. It goes out on the internet and downloads it.
Right. I got it. Well, I appreciate it.
What's your show going to be?
Well, I don't know yet, but it might involve slow motion or time lapse stuff.
You do that?
No, but I love it.
Yeah, me too.
For the affordable camera
that's the kind of thing. If you had a show that was just really cool slow motion or time lapse stuff, that's the kind of thing TiVo would put on there because it's cool. It looks good.
That's what my plan is. I'll call you back when it's ready.
We'll plug it for you.
Thank you, Leo.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.
Don't you love this? I mean, this is what has happened thanks to the internet. And the drastically reduced costs of production thanks to digital technology is that somebody can say, I think I'll do a network. I think I'll do a video network. And how can we get that on your TiVo? And this is where the change is really going to be dramatic, is once, this is called, by the way, IPTV, Internet Protocol TV, basically video or television that comes in over the internet as opposed to over the cable box or through the satellite or through the airwaves. And we're close. Internet TV is the equivalent of every other kind of TV. Watch out. Stand back. You're going to get all sorts of interesting stuff. Young people who say, I can make TV shows that are going to be great. And all of this stuff will be available on the internet. 500 channels, forget it. 500 million channels. I mean, just kind of almost a virtually infinite range of stuff. Sometimes people are scared by that. They say, well, the internet offers too many choices. It's overwhelming. What are we going to do? It's too much. And I understand that's, it does present a challenge, but I think that the internet is solving that problem as well. Thanks to Facebook and Twitter and Google+, people recommend stuff to you. Your friends say, hey, this is good. I think the cream will rise. And I think it is true that, some percentage of everything is great. I don't know what that percentage is. 1% of all programs are great. 1/10 of 1%, 10%. I don't know what that number is. Science fiction author Theodore Sturgeon said that 80% of everything is garbage. He was kind of a grumpy fella, and that is kind of a pessimistic point of view. See, I'm the optimist. I said, well, if 80% of everything is garbage, that means 20% of everything is good. And so if there's more everything, then there's more good stuff. And if there's a lot more everything, there's a lot more good stuff. So let's say Sturgeon was an optimist. Let's say 99% of everything is garbage. Doesn't matter. Let's say there's 100 million new programmers out there, which is not unheard of. I'll give you a real number. Every minute, 24 hours worth of new videos uploaded to YouTube alone. 24 hours uploaded to YouTube alone. So let's say only 1% of that is great. It's still more than you could watch in a lifetime. It's more than you could watch in real time. So that means there's a lot of great stuff out there, and that's exciting. And some of it is stuff that would not have occurred. Most of it is stuff that would not have occurred in the old system, where you had to have an idea and then go hat in hand to a producer, a television station, a radio station, a record company, or publisher and say, please, sir, please, would you publish my stuff? It's going to be really good. And some guy with basically some fat white guy with a cigar and a lot of money would say, yeah, kid, all right, I think I'll give you a chance. It's not like that anymore. You make it, you put it on the internet, and you hope that people find it and spread the word. And I think that's very possible. That's very exciting to me. Rick in Burbank, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hey, Leo, love your. Hope you don't get tired of hearing that.
Never.
Hey, I've been a long-time T-Mobile customer. I'm reasonably happy with the service, happier with the pricing, and happiest of all when I got to the end of my contract. So I'm out of contract. I'm month to month, and I'm not really planning on switching, but it brings me to my question today, which is I've got a BlackBerry Curve, which I guess technically is a smartphone, but there's a lot of smarter phones out there. My question is, where would you recommend, other than eBay or Craigslist, looking for a good price on a smartphone without the contract? I would love something like the HTC Sensation. Don't know if that's realistic because it's so new. But where would you suggest other than eBay and Craigslist?
Well, if you're buying used, eBay, Craigslist, or maybe even newspaper classifieds, that's where those used things go. So that actually is where I would recommend. But so you're saying you want to buy a used phone? I don't recommend it.
Well, no. Even a new phone, but without a contract.
New phone, Amazon.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny. They don't sell the Sensation. They sell some other ones without contract. But it's funny, on the Sensation, I only saw them listing it with contract.
So what you need to find out is what the HTC Sensation's global name is. It's not sold in the U.S. without contract, but probably a very similar, if not identical phone is sold with a different name globally. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'll find out for you right after this. Tears to the eyes. Paul Simon performing at Ground Zero, The Sounds of Silence, today on the 10th anniversary of September 11th. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We were talking before the break about buying an unlocked phone. Our caller didn't want to get in contract. He was in a month-to-month contract with T-Mobile. Very happy about that. Didn't want to get in a long-term contract. So if you have AT&T or T-Mobile, this is kind of cool. You can buy a phone. Not from them, but from another provider, usually an international provider, that is unlocked. That means you can take the SIM card. This is a little small, little white card that's inside the phone. You can take the SIM card out of the phone. That's your identity, basically. That's your phone number. It's not your memory. But it's your phone number. It's your identity. It's your account, and you can put that into an unlocked phone. And the reason unlocked is important is if it's a locked phone, it will only work with the carrier that sold it. Carriers sell unlocked phones, but internationally, a lot of phones are sold unlocked. That means they'll work with any GSM carrier, and that's because internationally there are many carriers, and frequently these phones are sold without subsidy by a carrier. Now you'll pay more for an unlocked phone. You'll pay a lot more because the carrier isn't underwriting, isn't subsidizing the cost. The carrier is, but remember, the cost of a phone, whether it's $500 or $600, and that's what an unlocked smartphone typically cost, is a fraction of the overall amount of money you're paying to the carrier. Usually a smartphone is $80, $90, $100 a month. We're talking thousands of dollars over the 2-year contract. So if you don't have a contract, you don't want a contract, but you do want one of the latest smartphones, you could absolutely go, if you want to buy a new, go to Amazon. There are other places. There's cell phone stores. I've bought unlocked phones on other sites, but to be honest, I often just go to Amazon. Our caller was looking for a Sensation unlocked, and in fact, the chat room found it for me. Yes, indeed. You can get, and this is a nice phone, the HTC Sensation. If you can't find it by the U.S. name, I told him, look for the international name, because sometimes they give it different names. In this case, the Sensation works. Here's an unlocked phone. Now, it's $600 because you're not getting a subsidy, and it doesn't come from Amazon directly. It's sold by Addicted to Phones, but that's all right because Amazon buying it through Amazon kind of gives you some assurance that you're okay. What you also want to do is look carefully at the frequencies, because phones that are international phones that are sold outside the U.S. may not work on the same frequencies as U.S. carriers. So you want to make sure it'll work both on the phone frequencies and the high-speed data frequencies. Sometimes they'll only work, for instance, with a slower speed data. You want to make sure you get the full 3G or 4G that your carrier offers. Sometimes, now in this case, it says this unlocked phone is compatible with GSM carriers like AT&T and T-Mobile, but not all carrier features may be supported. Now, that's what you want to look into. Does that mean we don't get high-speed data? So you want to look into that. Sometimes just Amazon's great this way. Just reading the reviews will tell you a lot. In this case, there are no reviews, so we don't know. If you're looking for a great smartphone, the other choice is, and this is, I think, I prefer this slightly better than the HTC Sensation. As good as the Sensation is, if you like HTC's user interface, you might prefer it. But to me, the Samsung Galaxy S2 is currently the best Android phone out there. $591, unsubsidized, and unlocked. Again, you need unlocked. And you have to make sure it'll work on the carrier. This is a very nice 4.3-inch Android phone. Really, really sweet phone. Will not work with Verizon, will not work with Sprint because they're not GSM carriers. They don't have that SIM card that you can transplant. You can't do the brain transplant. So you need to get, you need to be on T-Mobile or AT&T, a GSM carrier, and you need to get an unlocked phone that works on those frequencies, and then you take the SIM card out of your old phone, you put it in the new one. And Amazon, in this case, does have, in fact, unlocked versions of both those phones. Patrick San Berdue, Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Leo. It's an honor to be on your show.
Well, it's an honor to have you call.
Well, like you know, my name is Patrick. I hold a bachelor's degree in the liberal arts, and I'm currently supporting technology through a master's degree in STEM.
What's STEM?
STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Awesome. You must be super smart.
Well, mainly trying to engage students through, in their academics through things like engineering and technology.
Oh, so this is not for college level? This is for K through 12, or?
Yeah, basically it's a whole movement kind of through the whole, all of the different grades, trying to just make education a hands-on thing.
Yeah, right on. STEMcoalition.org. Or STEMedcoalition.org if people want to know more about it. That's great. Good for you for doing that.
Yeah, there are many different coalitions through all of the different states, and so it's something that's up and coming. And, yeah, we're doing a lot of work to kind of bring a practical aspect to education.
Fantastic. Well,
okay.
What can I do to help? Because that's a great quest. That's a great thing to do, and I totally support it.
Well, I thank you very much. Over at the California State University of San Bernardino, it's a great place to be.
Yay.
Okay, so my question today, though, is about my mom's computer.
Sometimes moms need help, too.
This is true. So we've kind of gotten to our capacity in, photos and music on our computer within iTunes and iPhoto.
Yeah. You filled up the hard drive, did you?
Yeah, pretty much. I was kind of shocked to open up my mom's computer today and look at just megabytes of space left.
Instead of gigabytes.
Right.
Yeah, I've been there.
So I'm trying to find out is if there's a way to store our library on an external drive.
Yes, there is. And I highly recommend it. There are a couple of things you can do. If you just want a big drive that's hooked up to her computer, go get it. iTunes has in the advanced, I presume she's using iTunes.
Yes.
I shouldn't have presumed that. Okay, good. iTunes has in the preferences, in the advanced section, it says, where's your library? You can have your library on any drive. So if you just want to get a good, big, there's 3 terabyte drives out there right now. I'm not sure I'd recommend that, but a terabyte drive, and that's what I do. And I named it music. It's attached to the external port on the computer, USB, FireWire, eSATA would probably be the best. And then you tell iTunes, no, your music isn't in the music folder. It's in on that drive out there. And from then on, that's it. It'll work just like it was local.
So if the drive wasn't plugged in, iTunes or iPhoto might just go, hey, where's this drive?
Yeah.
And I would just say, hey, I'd have to actually...
Hey, it's over here. iPhoto's a little different. You have to, I think, hold down the Option key or the Shift key, or the... it depends on Windows. It's I think it's the Alt key. On Mac, it's the Option key. And when it's starting up, and then it'll say, oh, you want to move your photo file, and you say photo library, and you say, yeah, put it on that external drive.
Now you're saying holding that Option key when?
When you start it up. When you start iPhoto up. iTunes, you can do it in the preferences. iPhoto, you have to... I don't know why Apple did this. You have to hold down the Option key.
So when I start up iPhoto?
Yeah. And then it'll say, oh, you want to put your library somewhere else? And you say yes.
Okay, very cool.
Now, there is another way you can go, and that is to use a network-attached storage drive. This would be this works... This doesn't make sense if it's only Mom and her computer. Then you could just put an external drive on it. But if there are multiple computers, looking at a networked hard drive like the Synology here is a great solution. Hey, we're out of time. Thank you for joining me. Have a great Geek Week, everybody. Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy.